Hello and welcome back to All for United. And it's Monday and it's just another United transfer show. I have got three absolute pearling guests today, so I'm really looking forward to doing this show, even though the news today probably hasn't always been great. So first of all, I'd like to introduce Hayder back. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, good, thanks. Two great guests, so very excited.
Yeah, we're looking forward to hearing from these Reds. Phil, we've had you on before, mate, but it's an absolute pleasure to have you back again. How you doing, bud?
Doing good, mate. Doing good. And thank you so much for having me back. Honored to be here, lads.
Cheers, mate. Thank you. Appreciate it. And Rodri, you've done quite a bit of work on All for United. Obviously, I know you've worked with Usman a few times on the Breakdown and Banter show, but it's good to have you on the transfer show for the first time. How you doing?
No, yeah, I'm good. Yeah, it's good to be on. Yeah, I'm good. It's the sun's shining in Manchester, so can't be bad.
I know, yeah. I don't think the cloud in the sky in Manchester, is there? I was watching the cricket there yesterday and I couldn't believe it. I thought I'd never seen Manchester skies without a cloud in it. It's brilliant. So,
no, you've got to enjoy it while you can.
Yeah, a bit of a heat wave for us Northerners, isn't it, to be honest?
Yeah.
Guys, as normal, we are live today, so get your comments in. We'll try and get as many of them answered as we possibly can. You know, it's 3 weeks to go now, thereabouts, till the end of the transfer window, so things are really hotting up. Today, you'll see it running up along the bottom of your screen, where you should do if I put it up there. We are going to be chatting today about the news that's broke today about United intensifying this talks for Sergio Reguilon. We're going to have an update on Jadon Sancho. You might not be looking forward to that because I don't think the news has been too positive over the last couple of days. And we're going to finish off at looking at some of maybe the alternatives to Sancho, Gareth Bale in particular. But let's kick off with the news about Sergio Reguilon, the Real Madrid left back. I'll come to you first of all, Hayder. Sort of this morning, it looked like it was a deal that was getting closer and closer. But then I have to be honest, in the last hour or so, there's news that the first bid that United are going to put in could be rejected by Real Madrid, as it's around about 20 million without the buyback clause. But without talking about the fee and about the transfer for a moment, you know, is it a player that we should be excited about coming to United?
Yeah, I like what I've seen from him. I think, if I'm being honest with you, I would much prefer us to have gone for a centre-back. I think it's quite clear that our defensive frailties were exposed a lot after the restart. But someone like Reguilon for that price that is being quoted, I think it's great business. United in the past, I think over the past 7 years, haven't really done what I'd call smart business. You're looking at the Van der Beek deal, you look at the Bruno Fernandes deal, they're two deals which you can consider to be smart business. So what I like about Reguilon is that, you know, he is someone that has a high ceiling. He's still fairly young, 23, I believe. And he offers something going forward, which is something which I think a lot of people, including myself, have criticised Luke Shaw for. Although Shaw has stepped up after the restart, I don't think he offers enough going forward. His end product's not good enough. We need more goals and assists from our fullbacks. And if Wan-Bissaka is considered the more defensive one, then we need our left fullback to be one that's marauding forward, overlapping Rashford, underlapping. And I think what's really telling is when you look at Reguilon's shots as a fullback in La Liga, he was the only fullback with over 20, which is very impressive. And he obviously excels carrying the ball up the pitch at speed. He's very good at dribbling, progressive dribbles. But I think what's quite worrying is maybe the defensive side of the game, which you can say probably the same for Shaw. But look, I'm not the biggest Luke Shaw fan, and I'm also not the biggest fan of Brandon Williams at left back. I do like to have a left-footed left back, a right-footed right back. So I think it would be great business for United. Whether they can do it is another question, but it would definitely fix us and provide more competition for that left back position.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And now, Phil, I'm going to come to you on Reguilon because I know obviously you do countless pods, mate. You've talked to people all around Europe in the game and whatever. And obviously, I don't know how much La Liga football you watch yourself, but if we're going to bring someone like Reguilon in, do you think he's a player to come straight into this United team? Now, don't get me wrong. If the deal's done by Palace, I'm not saying he'll start against Palace because that's a lot to ask of the lad. But moving forward, long term, is he a player that you think United have got in mind to be their first choice left back, or do you think they'll try and blood him for a couple of seasons behind Luke Shaw and then he'll move into the first team?
No, look, you're talking about a Spanish international, so he's not coming to United to sit on the bench behind Luke Shaw. They're looking at left backs because they have a problem at left back. Yeah. And he's been offered to United, obviously. I asked about him about 2 weeks ago, and the answer I got was he was offered to the club, but that's very different from actually signing him. That doesn't mean that they aren't interested. If they weren't, they would just say that. So I think that they're looking at him. The price that's being quoted seems to me pretty reasonable for a Spanish left back. It's already in Spanish international. Played 29 games for Sevilla last season, causing it a lot of problems in the semi-final. And it is a position that it need to do something in. There's even talk of possibly playing Mengi at left back, even though he's a right-footed centre back. He played against Salford there. He played very well. Although you can't assume base too much on that, but he's someone that Solskjaer's compared to Matthijs de Ligt. He's a very talented, skillful player. But I think it definitely is something that they need to address. It's encouraging because United have had weaknesses where they've taken far too long to address them. The fact that they're looking at this position is encouraging. We've seen the best of Luke Shaw, and for me, the best of Luke Shaw isn't good enough for a team if you want to win the league. And I think I get concerned about Luke Shaw on one-on-ones. You could see Spurs targeted him, for example. When United played, they played Bergwijn on him one-on-one, and that cost United the goal. Although De Gea should have saved it. I remember against Wolves when Traore was one-on-one against him. I have concerns about him. I have concerns about key aspects of his game for what we need as a top left back. So it doesn't surprise me that they're looking at left backs. Real Madrid want to sell him. He's third choice behind their two left backs, Mendy and Marcelo. So I think they could get him out of there. Hopefully it gets done soon, because we could be looking at two completely different changes in the back four with a new goalkeeper as well. So we'd like to believe that deal will get done soon.
Yeah, no, interesting. And it was interesting there, Rodri, that Phil mentioned about this idea that it seems quite a reasonable price, doesn't it? I think around about 30 million euros with add-ons potentially. And obviously this talk of a buyback clause. But even though Phil suggested it's a good deal, there's a lot of reports just before we're coming on tonight saying that United's first bid will actually be around about £20 million, which is probably around about 25 million euro. And here we are again with another player where we see United once again just trying to somehow take 5 million off a deal that just seems to be it's a good deal. Just do it, if you know what I mean. Do you agree?
Yeah, I do agree. He's obviously got good pedigree, like Phil says. It's good competition, and it's good competition for Luke Shaw. Plus, Luke Shaw, I think he Ollie likes to play that free. He may be a better player as the third centre back on the left hand side. I don't know. But it's good competition, and they're always low balling, aren't they? So they're always and ahhing, even though they probably supposedly argue the biggest club in the world. That's part of business, I suppose, and that's the way they deal with it. It's no surprise. They always leave it to the end of the window, and this year's no different.
No, and Phil, I'm just going to come back to you on now, going back to the price, and obviously I know what you think of the player, but like I said to Rodri there, I just feel like when we're spending days bartering over €5 million here or £5 million here or there, it's clear that this squad needs a lot of work done on it this summer, and players need to leave as well. And we know that United haven't got a good track record of trying to negotiate 2 or 3 deals at one time. So for you, how frustrating is it if this first bid goes in at 20 million when they know actually another 5 million more is what they need to pay for the player? I mean, what have they been discussing before they submit this official first bid?
It doesn't make any sense to me. This is the first time, really, in the last 2 years, we United have been getting recruitment right, where they've been bringing in players that have actually either held their value or increased their value. So Solskjaer surely should be trusted. And if you're looking at a 25 million, 30 million euro left back, I mean, take a look at some of the prices. Ben Chilwell went for, 50 million? Wan-Bissaka went for 50 million the year before. And you're balking at half that for a Spanish international. I don't understand that. And so I don't understand. What are you hoping to gain from this? Maybe knock a couple of million off. Maybe the player decides not to go there because he doesn't feel like United want him bad enough. This ridiculous messing around in what would be considered a paltry sum and a dividend for our lovely owners that have cost us 209 million over the last 5 years. So I just wish that they would stop messing about and get these deals done. If it was any other top club, this deal would be done. It's a simple deal. It's not difficult. And Just like Rodri says, well, here we are once again going towards the last 3 weeks of the window. United have no idea. Solskjaer's got no idea what the vast majority of his business has been done. He's got no idea what his squad's going to look like. Smalling's been left out of the preseason picture, so he's most likely gone. So if you factor in Smalling leaving for 15 million, United would have spent 25 million this summer or 20 million. That is a disgrace. And I mean, the football club that badly needed to spend this summer, supposed to use Champions League as a springboard for that. And once again, we're left wondering whether we'll do anything. I think they'll sign another couple of players, but again, I think they'll miss out on Sancho and the key targets we missed out on. It's just recruitment let United down last season. The first half of last season was because they didn't sign midfielders. And here we are again, recruitment once again, letting the manager down.
Yeah, and while you're there, Phil, just on this buyback clause quickly, United are obviously a bit nervous about that. Do you think the right to be nervous about that, or is it something that they should just not worry about right now? Just sign the player and let's see how it goes.
Well, look, they're targeting young players because they want to develop and sell if they need to. So they don't want to put a buyback clause in that lets Real Madrid buy the player back at a fixed price. I can understand them not wanting to do that, but they can always be bought out. It's just a matter of compensation. I'm sure with Real Madrid, what else are they going to do with Reguilon? His value isn't going to increase it in third choice left back. So I'm sure if they really wanted to do the deal, they could. This is never an issue for other clubs. It always seems to be an issue for United. If they really want to get that negotiated out, they could. It's just a matter of paying more for them and paying for that clause to be taken out. So I understand they want to work really hard to change the view that they're just a club that pays the asking price all the time. But the pendulum always swings too far the other way when they're trying to correct these things. Yeah. And now they go overboard and be overly sensitive. And I don't know. I think they're very lucky that other teams don't want Reguilon, and this is the market that they're in because that price would increase. And I would again, anytime you have competition for a player, they rarely get him. So I don't understand it, to be honest.
No. Guys, if you're enjoying the video, cracking start so far, some great views from the guys. If you're enjoying the video, do smash a like on it, subscribe to the channel. There's so much awesome content coming up on this channel now as the new season approaches. I'm going to move it on a little bit now, and I'm going to go on to Jadon Sancho. We talk about Jadon Sancho on every transfer show, but we did one on Friday, didn't we, Hader? And here we are on Monday. This, over the weekend, it's not exactly been positive, I don't think, is it? And even just coming onto the show now, there's more and more stories coming out, sources from Dortmund suggesting that, they aren't going to sell it, and they don't even want to hear the word add-ons. There's no interest in that, and it's just got to be total cash. But without getting into the ins and outs of the transfer at the moment, how frustrated has this become now this summer? I mean, I just feel like even my mood every day, it's sort of dragging me down, and I shouldn't be this sort of invested in it. But it's whenever I get bad news about it, it really does seem to have an effect on me.
Look, would it be a summer without United dragging out a big saga over a transfer target? It wouldn't, would it? So, look, my issue during the whole thing, I understand it's a massive, massive deal, and I think we do have to take that into account. But Dortmund have been very specific on what price they want, and that's what they want. They don't need to sell, so I don't understand what United are messing around and what they're doing. At the end of the day, if they think they can go in with a lower price, that's not going to happen. What I'm frustrated about is not so much the Sancho deal. I know I would love to have him. He's United's primary target, but it's the fact that we've wasted time on other targets. Van der Beek was done very swiftly, pretty much within 24 hours. But again, that's another one that could have been done much more earlier in the window. And then you've got, for example, someone like Thiago who's available. You've got someone like Reguilon that's available. It must be down to money, surely, if that's the issue, that United don't want to obviously put money towards other targets if it means they can't get Sancho. But I'm very frustrated. And look, the manager did what he had to do last season. Oli got us into top four. He got us third, which looked seemingly impossible when it was Christmas time. And how has he been repaid? By not getting the targets he wants in early, not being able to integrate them into the squad, and not being able to, move forward and have the best possible chance to challenge for the title. Look at Chelsea. I'm not asking for United to go and spend 250 million on 7 players. What I'm asking for is for United to be more efficient, to be much more professional in the market, and also to give the manager the best opportunity, like I said, to challenge. Whether you think Lampard's a good manager or not is besides the point. The fact is that he's been given the opportunity and the platform and the foundations to go and challenge the top two, and that's the frustrating thing for me. So, at this point, as I said to you the other day, Joe, that United have sucked the joy out of transfers. They've sucked the joy out of this Sancho saga. When it happens, I'll be relieved. But if it happens, that's the big question. Rather than happy, because it's just not enjoyable anymore. So look, I wish we'd got more business done early and then focus the last part of the window on Sancho. But we'll see what happens. It's frustrating always as a United fan during the window.
Yeah, and I mean, Phil, I'll come back to you on this a bit later, but obviously I'm going to go to Roger next. But this is the thing with this Sancho. It should be a signing that the club are trying to drill up all this excitement about. I mean, we know how much they love the PR and the marketing and everything, and they should be really getting the fans excited about if it's going to happen. And yet, actually, I think me and you sort of echo a lot of fans. We're just tired of it. And actually, when it does go through, the overriding emotion will be more relief than, wow, we've got this player. We're so excited. But, Roger, I just want to come to you because Hader touched on it there about the idea that how this deal's probably prevented us from improving other areas of the squad. We've invested so much time and effort trying to get this deal done that actually you could argue we still could do with another centre back. We could probably do with another centre mid. We know we want another left back. Do you think all this time and effort on Jadon Sancho, as good as he is worth it, at the detriment of obviously being able to improve the rest of the squad?
For me, no, not really. There's better options out there for me. There's Gareth Bale out there, there's Jack Grealish out there that you can get both of them players for less that kind of money. So
yeah,
I think we've got kind of a Jadon Sancho plus free. So we've got Rashford, we've got Martial, Greenwood, James. They can all play that in that area where Grealish can kind of lock different kind of doors. He can commit people. And then Gareth Bale's the X factor. He's a world class player and got a great CV. So it's like I said before. It's the same old United. I think there still will be a couple more signings, but they're just going to drag it out and see what happens. And he's obviously told them what he wants. They're just dragging their feet and just haggling. I don't know what they're waiting for. It's frustrating. The media doesn't help. It's United this, United that. It sells stories. It always will. It always has. It always will. So it's frustrating the fans because they're getting, United are getting this player, they're getting that player. So you don't know what to believe. But yeah, something needs to be done. And I truly do believe that a couple more players will come in before the window closes. Who will be, I don't know.
Yeah, no, thanks to Cheers, Rodri. A comment here, some, I suppose, breaking news, if you want to call it. Sancho starting for Dortmund.
Yeah,
People say that doesn't mean he's not coming altogether, but obviously I think we knew anyway he probably wouldn't be in time for Palace, and that probably sort of confirmed. It doesn't mean that a deal's necessarily dead for him to come towards the end of the deadline, but I think what we do know now is if this deal is going to go through, and it's getting more and more unlikely by the day if you ask me, but if it is going to go through, it's definitely going to be one for later in the window now. And I don't think there's any point in sort of getting our hopes built up if we hear news different day to day, because I just don't see how they're going to get this done quickly or overnight.
Sorry, Joe, there's so many different websites and news outlets. So every time United is mentioned, it gets traffic. So you just don't need to believe, and you just need to just sit and be patient and just hope that the powers that be bring the right people in, and a couple of people, at least a couple of people.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Roger. I mean, there are so many conflicting reports, and you don't know who to believe and what to believe. And I agree with you, be patient. And I think if we could guarantee that he was coming, I think we could all be patient and we'd be happy to wait for it. But it's just this not knowing, isn't it? I mean, Phil, I'll come to you. I mean, you've been on Twitter a long time, mate. You speak to people close to the club. I'm not asking you to divulge any information that you know, but does this feel different to other big transfers that they have dragged out before, like the likes of Maguire, like the likes of Bruno Fernandes, or are you seeing a lot of the similar patterns both in the media and with the people that you're speaking to?
Well, one of the things, there's a couple of things I don't understand about this. Why are we not allowed to negotiate personal terms with Jadon Sancho? Why did Dortmund allow that to happen?
That's a great point.
I don't understand if there was no understanding between United and Dortmund about what a price would be, then why would we be allowed to negotiate personal terms? You know, if you go back to the Haaland deal, the day before he signed for Dortmund, United leaked that they didn't want to do the deal because of a clause allegedly that was going to be put in that contract that meant he could leave within a couple of years. But surely that's the first thing you find out before you buy something is what is the price.
Yeah.
You know, before I take something up, I go into the shop and buy something, I want to know how much it costs, right? To me, that's basic due diligence of anybody who's trying to acquire something, especially the price of Jadon Sancho. So I don't understand why they were allowed to negotiate personal terms with him without an understanding of Borussia Dortmund, because there was no shot that they did that, or agent fees. And to me, what that is secondary to negotiating the price with Borussia Dortmund. To me, the first thing you get with Borussia Dortmund is an understanding of how much he is going to leave for. Before you hire an employee, you know, if you've got to pay to get them, you figure that out first, because everything else is secondary. So, and Jadon Sancho, he's not been a new target. If they were allowed to negotiate personal terms with him and all this stuff prior, surely they should have did this 6 months ago. You know, why wait till 3 weeks ago in the window to finally get a breakthrough? You know, I don't understand it. They've known Jadon Sancho was a target for a long time.
Yeah,
and we were told that possibly Bellingham, possibly, you know, Dortmund would do United a favour if they stepped aside with Bellingham, which of course was always nonsense. So I don't understand why it took so long. You know, I don't believe if Real Madrid had wanted him, this would have happened like this. I don't believe if Barcelona had wanted him, it would have happened like this. So yes, we've seen with Maguire, we've seen Fernandes that they'll drag things out to the last minute. But for United to then turn around and say today, well, we're going to pull out of this deal because Borussia Dortmund aren't really budging on the price. These are things that should have been understood months ago.
Yeah.
You know, and look, I think Gareth Bale would be on loan would be an excellent signing for United, certainly not given what they've got. But even with half his wages subsidised, he'd still be one of the top earners at United, and I think they're really reticent about doing that and spending that type of money. But you know, there's certain things that they don't make sense. For example, they're spending $500,000 a week on goalkeepers on wages, right? Which one of those goalkeepers at the end of the season will leave United, because if Dean Henderson isn't getting in the first team, he will leave, and if De Gea isn't getting in the first team, he will leave. How do you get rid of a goalkeeper on $350,000 a week who's second choice? It's going to be near impossible. So, but then they comes to the likes of Reguilon and they won't pay an extra couple of million, which makes no sense. And now we're talking about Ivan Perisic, a player they refused to pay an extra couple of million for 2-3 years ago. Now all of a sudden it's an option. I mean, it just makes no sense to me. This is always why, if you look at what it's cost United since Ferguson left, it has been the way the football club has been run by people who don't understand football. And so this, once again, they can't get out of their own way.
Yeah, and, you know, this comment sort of echoes this. You can only agree terms with a player once you've agreed a price. Everyone knows that. Because I suppose, Phil, if you get into the realms of trying to deal with the player before you've had permission from the club, we're into the whole tapping up thing, aren't we? And you know, we've been there with other clubs, and it's just, you know, it's not something. United do a lot of things wrong, but I don't think they would get involved in that, you know, on a deal.
Well, that type of thing happens, but you always have a good idea of what the place of the player is going to be before you know, the tapping up happens all the time. But I mean, you usually don't do it unless you've got a good idea that you can meet the asking price. There's a reason why they're not tapping up Neymar.
Yeah. Well, Hader, I'll come to you on this, because I thought actually earlier on in the week, you know, when we heard that obviously now the British media have got hold of the fact that personal terms and agent fees are apparently agreed. I've always maintained, I feel like the British media in this deal are being briefed by United, and the rest of Europe are always being the ones that are being briefed maybe by Dortmund, obviously in Germany, but then people like Romano, maybe the agent, and people closer to the deal. So for me now, I just feel, you know, if United do back out of this, they can't make anybody else a scapegoat, really, because obviously they've now basically suggested themselves that Sancho's agreed personal terms, so they can't put the blame on Sancho. And obviously, yes, they might be able to say Dortmund want too much, but at the end of the day, that's what Dortmund want for the player. And we've said before, if Sancho was our player and we were holding him now and Real Madrid wanted him, we would have a fee in mind, probably around the same amount of money, and we wouldn't want to budge either, would we?
Well, why should they sell a player for less than what they want? I mean, it's like, you know, Phil said to me before that if someone came in for Mason Greenwood, why would United sell him for any less than what they want for him? Look, Jadon Sancho, to put into perspective, Coutinho went for about 144 million. Look at João Felix as well, 126. Honestly, I know this might sound a bit crazy, but 108 million pounds or 120 million euros for Jadon Sancho, I think is actually very reasonable when you look at the current ability of the player, when you look at the potential as well. He could be United's number 7 for nearly a decade. And obviously, we don't like to talk about this, but there's also a massive commercial value to him as well signing. So I just don't understand at all the whole situation. United have been chasing him for over a season now, and they knew exactly what they needed to do. Even in January, they knew what they had to do. And honestly, when we lost to Sevilla, they should have put the bid in because we saw the issues that United have, the lack of depth, the lack of quality. And I just don't understand. Honestly, I don't understand how we've got to this far along the window and we're still discussing whether it's the agent's fees or the personal terms or the fee. United know what they have to pay. Dortmund have said what they want. Just get it done. And look, I was one of those that probably wasn't keen on Gareth Bale because I'm not sure about his commitment, maybe, or and the wage he's on, and also probably I'd probably say that the age profile as well. But you know what? At this stage now, United need to get bodies in, and if they're not going to put the money down for Sancho, then just get someone of quality in, because one injury to Greenwood or Martial and Rashford, and you're back with Dan James, and that's just not good enough.
No, I think last season showed that, didn't it? Especially, I just want to bring this point up, is that the only hope we have is that Sancho agitates for the move. But to be honest with you, and a few people have said this, but I don't see him doing that. And I just want to take this opportunity to say, actually, I think his behaviour during this whole process has been exemplary. You know, for a player that people have had question marks over his attitude, and in the past, there's been stories that he's been fined at Dortmund for things like turning up late and little misdemeanors. I think the way he's conducted himself during this whole process has been brilliant. The only frustration from a fan is, like in every transfer, I feel that you just wish you heard a little bit more about what the player himself wants. But you can understand why he's staying quiet. He's got to.
Well, they gave him his career. Like he made the massive step to go to Dortmund. And why should he agitate? Why should he disrespect? Look, there's agitating for a move, and there's going there and saying, look, I want to move to United. I mean, all the reports suggest he does, but I'm sure he'd be happy as well to stay, because Dortmund are a club on the up. You look at the squad they've assembled; it's brilliant. There's some really excellent young talent there. They've got Haaland, they've got Bellingham now. Gio Reyna's a good player. They look like a club that's definitely set to challenge Bayern, probably a bit closer than they were last year. And then also you have to look at the idea they're playing Champions League football as well. So he's got everything he wants there. And, there are suggestions that maybe he should stay another year to develop. Maybe the move's too soon. I don't think so, but I just don't see why people want him to just go and agitate for a move. They've given him everything. They've given him his career. So I really respect the way he's conducted himself during the whole saga.
No, I think we could all echo that. But Phil, obviously, when it comes to the bids and money, I do want to just bring this comment up here. Someone suggested that this unofficial bid, and I saw this last week sometime, was something around about 90 million plus 80 million in add-ons. But it was suggested, like, to me, and the things that I was listening to and hearing was that United thought 30 in installments, and then the other 18 million were apparently add-ons that were just not achievable. I mean, it's ridiculous to think that Man United could think they could get this player playing for them for a year, having only technically paid 30 million for him. I mean, it just beggars belief, doesn't it?
Well, I think if you look at United's finances and the fact that they borrowed 140 million to meet their obligations for cash flow purposes, then it wasn't realistic to expect that they were going to put a massive amount of money down, especially when you look at future cash projections for United. So they can finance the deal because they're a cash generating machine. So if Borussia Dortmund are willing to take payments over years, then they can do that. I feel that's primarily how they do their business. There's a few exceptions to that, so it doesn't surprise me that that's part of why United are having a problem doing this deal. If Borussia Dortmund are asking for a lot of cash up front, that cash just isn't there. So I think it doesn't surprise me that they can afford to finance it, of course. But I think truly And there's multiple reasons why. I think also you have to be careful with the briefings in this, because Fabrizio's information is coming from Enrique Abase, who is Sancho's agent, of course, and then there's the competing information coming from United, and they're probably both manipulating the truth a bit. United are very concerned about creating expectation, something not happening, and then Woodward getting absolutely slaughtered. So they tend to be overly cautious with their briefings. But they've also felt that if they could get past the personal terms and issue with the agent, they can get the deal done. I don't know where that confidence came from, because it looks like that's not the case. And COVID pricing is only relevant if you have to sell. If you don't have to sell, then it doesn't matter. So if Borussia Dortmund don't need to sell the lad, then you can't ask for a discount on something you don't need to sell. So I don't know. It's just bizarre to me that that we spent a couple of months sitting on something that really should have been worked out in a couple of days.
Yeah, no, exactly. Interesting one here. We've got someone called Ed Woodward saying, "Hey guys, now if that is the Ed Woodward, you don't need to be watching this show, mate. You need to be cracking on with some business." Now, I don't think that obviously it's not the Ed Woodward, but if Ed Woodward is watching transfer shows, he needs to be getting on. Let's. I'm going to come to you, Rodri, because obviously you've already thrown a couple of names out there, but it's been suggested to us now that United are seriously exploring other options. Again, I don't know whether that's a bargaining move with United playing the game, or whether it actually is the truth. I mean, I think it would be quite folly of them if they're not exploring other options, because there's a number of reasons this deal might not go through. So you always have to keep your options open. But I mean, first of all, Rodri, simple question: do you think they are looking at other players out there? And if they are, what are the ones that you think they should be looking at?
Well, it'd be silly not to, but it's Manchester United, and there's only a certain amount of players that are out there really that are capable of coming in and bettering your team, and there's not many out there. So, like the names I mentioned, could improve the team, but if it's. They must get it over the line now, because it's been dragging out all summer. And usually, when this happens, they usually get it eventually. Yeah. But by the sounds of it, if they haven't got the money and Dortmund want a big percentage up front, then it's just not going to happen. So I just can't understand how they haven't got the money. This is Manchester United. So, but like I said, to answer your question, there's not many out there. Like I said, Bale, Grealish, but yeah, the kid from Wolves, he scored again tonight. But would they let him go? They're not in a position to let their best players go. No. So, and why would they? They're fighting for the top 6 and possibly top 4 if they have a good season like they did last year. So, like I say, there's not many players out there. That there's a small pool, and. It's difficult business.
Yeah, and some interesting comment here. Some names being thrown out, alternative targets, people like Traore, which I think is what you were touching on there, Rodri, probably, Leon Bailey, Kaiser. They're all players, and Bale, obviously, and Costa. They're all players that we've talked about before, Phil. But for me, the problem that I have, people saying, well, if they don't get Sancho, look at Ousmane Dembele. But, to get a player maybe even a level down from Sancho, we're very naive just to think that it's a deal that can be done as quickly as that. I mean, any deal at this stage, it's going to take time. I mean, there's no quick fix here, is there, for a position as important as that with the targets that United are looking at?
Well, they'll tell you they have options in place if Sancho doesn't happen. So I assume that they do, that they've been working on alternatives. Who they are, there's not obvious. We talked about Perisic, Douglas Costa. None of those excite me. I think Perisic's a good player, but again, we talked about this. We could have had him 3-4 years ago, and Woodward didn't see the value in him spending that money 3-4 years ago. I doubt he's a better player today than what he was then. Douglas Costa's out injured too much. So the drop off in quality between Sancho and the next guy is massive. Unless it is someone like Gareth Bale, who to me is still a top player. And there's no question for a season-long loan would be an upgrade, and I would that he would excite me. I think that he is someone that it's ridiculous how he's been treated at Real Madrid. He scored an overhead kick in a European Cup final for them, and he's done very, very well. I would like to see him back in the Premier League. I think it's a waste to see him sitting on the bench, and probably would be. You could maybe even say that Sancho or Bale is a better player than Sancho at the moment. Sancho may become a better player than Bale, but if you get Bale on a season or two long loan, I think that's a good deal. To me, that's maybe one of the only alternatives that would excite me. The rest of them, I think they're also looking at some young players that aren't making the news right now in certain positions. So we could see a surprise there, but the obvious signings, there is no one out there. That's the thing. I don't know who their options are. The only one I hope it is, like I said, is Gareth Bale.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, I'm with you, Phil. I mean, the problem is, and I was going to ask this question next, but I'll come to you, Hader, because obviously for me, if this Sancho deal does not happen, anything else really, as a United fan, would just feel like a disappointment. I'm even tempted to say Gareth Bale as well, believe it or not. I just think it just wouldn't satisfy my soul as much as this Sancho signing. And if it doesn't go through, I mean, we're seeing Glazers out trending most today. I mean, I think the club can really expect a bit of a backlash if for whatever reason they pull out of this deal.
Well, you saw why people were tweeting Glazers out today because of the Swiss Ramble, the post they did, and it was just really grim reading. And it just the board deserve a backlash if they don't get Jadon Sancho. We were the only ones in for him this summer, and to not be able to secure something. Look, obviously there's financial constraints that are documented, but if United cannot sign Jadon Sancho this summer, I don't see them signing him next summer because the rest of Europe of the European teams will be in there for him. And there's a lot of options. He could go to Barcelona if Messi decides to leave. He could go play probably anywhere in any of the top sides in Europe. If one of the front three of Liverpool leave, then I'm sure they'll be in for him as well. So United have the opportunity to sign an incredible player already at this age, 20 goals, 20 assists last season, but also a player that could go on to become one of the best players of the next generation, along with the Mbappes of the world and the likes of Ousmane Dembele. So look, I don't know. I'm not going to rush in and say it's not going to happen or it is. I'm just going to be patient because there is still time left in the window. But United have left it very late, and if Bale came in, I would be still pretty deflated. But as Phil said, if he can still play at a high level, if he can show some of that form that made him one of the best players in the world, and I think it would be a decent short-term option. But United, if they don't sign him this summer, I don't see him ever joining United.
Yeah, and Rodri, I know, in fact, you touched on the idea of obviously Bale joining the club earlier on in the show, but somebody suggested to me today in a chat that what about the idea of getting someone like Bale in on loan? Then that obviously frees up some cash to maybe look more seriously at the centre forward position. So, for example, someone like an Jimenez or something like that. If you could loan Bale in, and then you could then look at maybe spending that money on a centre forward or even a centre back.
Yeah, this Gareth Bale thing is not going away. He's not going to stay at Real Madrid. That's for certain. He's definitely going to go somewhere. And if we're in the market, if you told me that at the end of the season we'd been Van der Beek and Gareth Bale in, then I wouldn't be overly joyed. But like Phil said, it'd be it's better the team. It's the better team than finished anyway. So you can't grumble with it because he's bettered the team. But like I say, to bring a centre forward in, who's out there, and these deals don't get done like in hours. They take days and drag on, and so we need to get something done quickly. But like I said before, it's just going to drag on, and then I just hope we don't end up panic buying or panic bringing someone in that's just not up to the level. We've got a lot of players that are still there that it needs to get rid of. Jones, Rojo, Mata. There's a few that 5 or 6 that needs to go. So someone needs to work on getting them out the door as well, so we can free up the wage and then bring other people in. But at the minute we just need to bring quality in it, and Gareth Bale is that, and he would better the team. So Like Phil said, he would excite me.
I've got to say, Rodri, it's been brilliant listening to you tonight, because I just feel that your views and the way you are about this transfer window, you're just echoing so many United fans across Twitter at the moment. But you just seem absolutely worn out by it. I know I am. We do these shows. We've been doing them twice a week. They're now moving to once a week, aren't they, Ada? So I know how it is.
Thank God.
Phil, I just want to. I'm not that bad, am I, mate? I thought I've been keeping you pretty good company to that.
Yeah, sorry, mate.
No, but Phil, I just want to come to you, because call me cynical, but my fear is with United is that if they don't get Sancho over the line, the only way they feel that they can soften that blow to the fans is by maybe bringing in a Galactico kind of name like Gareth Bale. And then obviously then I would be questioning their reasons behind the deal. Do you feel like if they don't get Sancho done, they have to bring someone like Bale in to soften the blow with the fans?
I don't think they would do it for the purpose of softening the blow with the fans. I think, to be fair, since Solskjaer's come in, they've been a bit pragmatic about their signings. Yeah. But I think if you listen to something that Solskjaer said, he goes that what we bring in has to be better than what we have. Gareth Bale's better than what they have. I don't know if Douglas Costa is, and I don't know if a half-fit Douglas Costa is. So I think that would be the criteria for bringing Gareth Bale in, is because he is an improvement. So on their current selection. So the other issue, of course, is squad depth is a big problem for United. We saw it against Sevilla, where they didn't have the players to come off the bench to change the game. Yeah. So one player this summer is nowhere near enough. Especially if we've already moved a couple out. Sanchez is already gone. Chris Smalling's gone, about to go. So we can't have a summer where more players go out than what come in. In a squad that badly needs, 3 or 4 additions. So, I'm a brother. I think they will sign another couple of players before the end of the window. But I'm sincerely hoping it's not going to be someone like a Josh King, who's not. Not an improvement on what we have. Remember, Igalo leaves in a couple of months, so that they're also going to have to address that. So they're going to need another forward, whether they sign him, which I think they need to sign him this summer, whether it's a centre forward or a right winger. They're going to have to sign someone. But who it is, I don't know. And like the lads were saying, these big deals take a long time. You have a big deal as a backup option. Right. Plus, top players aren't backup options anyway. They're priorities. So when you start getting the backup options, that's when I start to get concerned about what's coming in and quality. And when we look at teams that don't secure their top targets, that get second, third, and fourth choice players, you can get away with that with 1 or 2 second choice players in a squad. Cantona was a second choice player in a team with first choice players, right? But you can't keep doing that. At some point, you have to show aptitude. You can't keep missing out on Haaland. You can't keep missing out on Bellingham. You can't keep missing out on Sancho and expect to win trophies. If you're not going to sign these top-end players, and you want to sign the best young players, well, you actually have to sign them. Yeah. And so, but again, it's always, Solskjaer will end up losing his job if they don't get the players that they need. But the people that cost him his job never will lose their job. And they're almost offended at any type of criticism and any type of analysis of them, as I found out.
and I'll tell you what I find interesting. And we talked about it on the last show, and I'll finish with you, Phil, actually, as you made that point, so I'll finish on that point. We know that Solskjaer's been watching this team, like us, as a fan for the last 7 years, on his sofa, wearing his United shirt, apparently with Rashford on the back. He's seen the managers that have gone before. He's seen managers that, one, haven't fitted the philosophy of the team, of the club, and also, but more importantly, managers that are sort of haven't been backed. And then as a result of that, they've lost their job. I mean, we saw it with Mourinho in the summer of the season when he went. He didn't get the players he wanted. United overruled him. He went. And obviously, Solskjaer's not stupid. He'll be able to see what's coming here. And I think for a man that really cares about this club, forget his own personal feelings, I think he'll be quite worried about what's to come this season if he doesn't get the players that he wants. I mean, do you agree?
Well, he should be. I mean, I don't know how anyone can come to this football club and be successful if they're not going to recruit properly. It's impossible. You can't ask a manager to win the league. People say, oh, well, Liverpool won the European Cup. That will prompt United to spend like it would with Barcelona if it was Real Madrid or vice versa. If they win in the European Cup didn't prompt them to do it, winning the league wasn't going to prompt them to do it. These are owners that define success completely differently to you and me. They define success by profits. So as long as profits there, they don't feel the need to. They look at everything through the lens of profit. Should I spend another 120 million on Jadon Sancho to guarantee top four? No, because we feel like we have a squad that gets top four anyway. Yeah. So that's how they look at everything. So they don't. If you're going to be successful at United, it won't be because the owners back you with a lot of money, right? It'll be because you have to have a genius of a Ferguson to bridge a gap. So I think it's very, very difficult to be successful with an ownership structure like this and with people making decisions about football who don't really understand football.
Yeah, no, thanks, Phil. And I think that's a good place to end. We are running out of time today, but I do just want to say a massive thank you to Hader for coming on. You're always on with me, mate. Thanks for taking the time out and coming on again today.
No problem, mate. Great fun as always.
No, yeah, thank you. Phil, I know you're so busy, mate, with all the stuff you do.
Absolute pleasure, man.
I look at your Twitter timeline, mate. You're always doing things. So I do appreciate you taking the time out to put the good work.
Honor to do it with yourselves and with Rodri especially. Thank you so much, lads.
Yeah, cheers. And Rodri, your debut on the transfer show, mate. Put it this way: if Sancho does sign and he has a debut as good as you, then he'll have a bit of a finder, I reckon, mate.
Cheers, fellas. Yeah, enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, I hope we can get you on in the future. And I mean, I will say to you two guys, you've come on a bit of a graveyard shift today. It's not been a great couple of days in terms of news, but hopefully when we get some more positive news, it'll be great to have you on and obviously discuss that with
no problem,
guys as well. So, guys, thank you if you've been watching. Like I say, do put a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel. We're getting really close to 1,000 subscribers now, so that would be great when we can hit that mark. We are moving to one show a week, as Ada is delighted about as of this week. So there won't be a transfer show on Friday, but we'll be back with you again on Monday when hopefully we have a lot more positive news. But until then, guys, take care and we'll see you next Monday. Cheers. Bye.
Cheers, lads. Bye.